Okay, so we are back with Lockdown Wines episode 2. This is where I probably wanted to start in the beginning, but we started somewhere else. But if we start here at the beginning again, the reason I like this is that these are all Majestic wines. I do buy a lot of wine from Majestic, and it seems fitting as we are in another crisis. That the last crisis that we had was in 2008, and Majestic 2008 was a financial crisis. For those of you who were not around at that time, who shouldn't really be of drinking age, but we'll brush over that. But the Majestic is a wine warehouse in the UK, and it was in big trouble, I think. Rumour has it, again, urban legend, over a decade later, things get twisted. But more or less the story went that they had 60, 70, 80%, I think it was more 60, 70% of their business was from small businesses. And in a financial crisis, they all stopped buying wine. And then the urban legend continues that the younger members of their staff suggested that they sell in a sort of semi-entrepreneur stroke odd bin sort of level of getting rid of the end cases and selling sort of entrepreneur wine, which is very difficult to sell by the bottle because of the volumes that you need. And allegedly that saved them. So here we are in another crisis, and I have been a member of their concierge service, which I don't know if that carries on from there, but my hope was that the concierge service, I promise you, I have not drunk anything yet today. It is the evening, but I should practice my red lorry, yellow lorry, red Rolls Royce before coming on. So their concierge service was eagerly awaited by me. They bigged it up, saying it was decades or years in the making. And ultimately, it's okay. I mean, I'll tell you why I like it and why I'm probably going to stop using it. But ultimately, it's given me at least 2 of these wines. I'll pretend this is concierge. The other wine was recommended to me by the staff when I was asking, have you got any wine left? Because everybody was hoarding. And what they had was some wines which are coming in the next one, which are I'm looking forward to. But they gave me this one as well. And it's quite fitting to start with a very simple, very basic set of wines, which came otherwise in the concierge case. And basically the concept is that you pay £100 a quarter and you get a box of wine. There are more than a box. I can't remember how many is in there. Somewhere between 6 and 10 maybe. So yeah, they're not the greatest wines. The reason I've liked it is that it's opened my eyes again. It's very difficult. Most British people have grown up drinking, of my age, have grown up drinking French wines. I grew up of a drinking age in Spain, and so I have a more Spanish flavour. And then as a student, I spent a lot of time with Italians, one of whom went on to make a wine, which will be in a following one. And it is an amazing Italian wine. Still a good old friend. And ironically, I was in October trying to get down there with another friend, but we didn't make it. And now we will make sure we do make it for the next one. Anyway, long story short, what was good is that because Riojas and Spanish wines are such good value and so dependable, you quite often, or I found myself getting bogged down into always buying the same wines. And so what a few quarters of the concierge service did is open the boundaries up again. Because I also found that even in wine tastings, where usually I have a friend who does wine tastings at least one dinner a year, blind tasting, and usually I was pretty okay at those, but I found in the last one I was appalling, and it was because I'd only been drinking Tempranillo Rioja. It was good to open. One of these wines I've never tasted before, one of these I have, and let's see how we come back to it. But let's get going. We are going to start with this one. It is called Dehesa Lantana. And honestly, I've never come across this in Spain before. It has the old wrapping that the traditional Riojas had, which legend has it was to stop when the trains were transporting the wine from La Rioja. People were getting on the trains, or the train guards, etc., were drinking the wine by opening the lacquer top, uncorking it, drinking it, putting something else in. And this allegedly stopped it. I don't know. It's I find it quite, we'll get rid of it. But this is a Reserva. It's 2015, which is a pretty good year. And this is pretty cheap. This is at the lower end of what you can get in Majestic. And I honestly have to say, I'm going to tell you already, because it is a stonker. It really is a lovely, dare I say, everyday drinker or regular drinker or whatever you want to do with wines. Or if you're, I don't know, I mean, if you're a student, this should be your good wine, which won't leave your teeth purple like the wines I sometimes drank when I was a student. And so the reasons I like this also, the cork's okay. It's one of those kind of composite corks, which is made from recycled old corks. What can you expect for this much? But color-wise, it's pretty amazing. And it is, I mean, you'll see, it really is quite a, it's kind of harsh on the end. It's not as refined, obviously, as some Reservas that you'll get. And I must admit, the first bottle and the first glass, I was not another recommendation that's kind of really, but I've kind of gotten used to it. I suppose it's a bit like an engine when you put normal petrol in or normal diesel. If it's used to super or the fancy petrols, it'll run okay. Nothing bad is going to happen. If I had to drink this wine the rest of my life, I would go on to live a fairly decent life. You really can't argue with this for what it costs. So, definitely a stonker. We've then got Boyante. Now, Boyante came to me in the Concierge case, as I said, and I'm obviously out of practice. I don't open the wines as well as I used to. Pretty good. Corking where it needs to be. 13.5% volume. Fairly decent cork. Wrong angle to be getting this out at. Decent sound. Now, as you can see, the cork is a pretty pale colour, and you'll see why in a minute. Even though this is a composite cork, I think you can kind of see that it is much darker, and you'll see why in a second. But not at all bad. You know, there are worse things to happen in life. It is a 2016, which is pretty good. I'd imagine it to have been a 17 by now. And let's revisit this. So this is the Boyante. Hopefully it floats. Buoyant. Now, this did disappoint me, I won't lie, when I first got it. It really did. And I don't know why, but it seems a bit better this time. I think the main reason is, I'm sure you can see, you may be able to pick up the colour, maybe not. We'll see this in editing, but yeah, it is a bit too clarity. Now, obviously, I'm recommending this from somebody who grew up in Spain and loves big. I grew up in Spain, but also I must admit to you, I was spoilt. The first wine that I drank as a rather too young to drink was a 1982 Viña Tondoña. My good old, some friends of my parents, two lovely Belgique and Luxembourg family who had a house down the hill in Spain from us, invited us down to one of their dinners, and their dinners were pretty special. To give you an idea, the after dinner dessert was a bowl of the ice cream that you make with cream called parfait. And it was 2 litres of ice cream with a whole glass of brandy and a whole bottle of Grand Marnier. And it was called an orange parfait, but it was really a Grand Marnier parfait. And long story short, there was only, I think, the couple, a friend, my parents and I, and we finished off a whole case of 12 bottles of 1982 Viña Tondonia, which we will cover in another one of these, maybe not in 82, unfortunately, but it is, I mean, it is a stonker. There is no doubt about it. Anyway, bring a few years back, I honestly have lost my thread, but yes, I swear I haven't been drinking already. But when you're used to Riojas and big wines, I like knife and fork wines. So when you're saying, when you're taking on board what I'm saying about this being a bit of a claret, in terms of clarete being a bit too clear, if you look at some of the Riojas and go, my God, I like some of the Rioja themes. However, most of their wines are too big, bold, and like when I said this has a bit of a harsh finish, they're a bit too much. Then, maybe Boyante is the wine for you. I mean, like the same with, even though I was brought up on Rioja wines, I love Bordeaux. I mean, we'll get onto that, but a really good Bordeaux is, to me, I mean, they're exceptional. But it's those big, black, fruity Bordeaux. And when you go to the shop and you spend a lot of money on a Bordeaux and it's like this, well, then I'm really sorry. It's not my thing. But let's give it another go. I do not judge. Nicely. Plonk. Okay, so we've established that Boyante isn't really that buoyant. I suppose we should chuck it in the Thames and see if it floats. It's going over there. So, we now have something I've never tasted before. I found it in my concierge box whilst looking for another wine which kind of inspired this. And it's the wine that, as I said in my last episode, I recommended to a friend, and then his mother from then on wanted me to recommend wines, and bought whatever I recommended, which is, I kind of like. So, this is just called Villa Belinda Dark and Juicy Red Wine. So hopefully it is dark and juicy. It's a 2017 and it's from Cuenca, which could be good. It's also 14.5% alcohol, which you'll find most decent Spanish wines are 14 to 15%, just because whilst it's very cold and dark at night in most of the areas that grow the wines that I like, it's very sunny during the day, obviously, as we expect from Spain, and that sun creates a lot of nice sugar. Open that one a bit better. Very composite cork, but very promising colour. If I come back to our flotante or boyante, or whatever it's called, you'll see, I hope you can pick that up, against the fluorescent pink top, but we're on the right track. These things are important. So, let's see what we've got. Promising. I should have a way of sort of leaving that there. Can you see that? Depends whether you're seeing, obviously a lot of you will be seeing this on mobile. If you're seeing it on a big screen, you'll be able to see that a little better. I'm trying to remember what this reminds me of. Wow. It's almost a raisiny, fresh, fruity, blackberry, jammy, all those lovely things. Oh wow. This is definitely, as they say, dark and juicy red wine. It's from Cuenca, which you'll see is, if my geography is right, is south right, so between Rioja and the wine producing regions around Barcelona. And this, I know what this reminds me of now. It reminds me of, there's a wine called Habla del Silencio, which you need to try if you like Spanish wines. It's not necessarily my favorite wine, but it's a great expression of how much fruit you can get out of a desert, essentially, because it's from Extremadura, which is the desert behind, between Spain and Portugal. I think is the way to explain it. It's not all desert. There are some lovely towns there that I explored in my youth, but this is stonker. It really is quite special. I could see myself drinking a lot of this, and I hope in the concierge box, some wines you get 2, and some of them you only get 1. And I'm rather hoping that this, unlike the Boyante, which unfortunately had 2 bottles, but gave us this video, I'm rather hoping there's 2 of these, because it is an absolute stonker. Viña Belinda. Okay. It's not going to win any prizes. It's a bit harsh on the end, but you could drink this all day long. Hope you enjoyed this. I am now going to make myself a lockdown barbecue with whatever we've managed to scavenge from the local supermarkets and deliverers, and drink responsibly, obviously. Cheers.